this year we were expanding to 12 teams, but now we're expanding to 14 teams. Who would have ever thought that more money was coming into play? It's the age-old argument that you and I play probably once every other week. Suits or money people or TV networks, which mainly this is who it's falling upon, are continuing to have meetings about expanding the college football playoff. Of course they are. Of course they are. Because when nobody asked, like literally nobody was even asking, can you expand the playoff from 4? I'm pretty sure everybody came to the realization 4 teams cannot win the national title. Fans were loving college football. And you had some fans, which rightfully so, say to themselves, man, the bowl games, they suck. They just really stink. Bowl games aren't really fun anymore. Yeah, I get that. That's what happens when you have a playoff. That's what happens when people are making smart business decisions. Doesn't mean that the offseason or the postseason stunk. It really didn't. But here we are, a 14-team playoff that nobody asked for. We're going to continue to have decisions like this. We're going to continue to have decisions that are forced upon college football that no one's asking for. Nobody was asking for a 2-minute warning that they're putting into play here. Nobody was asking for there to be a running clock. Nobody was saying that the games were too long. Nobody was leaving places like Death Valley and Tiger Stadium. When Alabama was in town and Jane Daniels is rolling out right, throwing to Mason Taylor, there wasn't an empty seat. The regular season actually meant something. And I got to tell you, I am tired of hearing the argument that the regular season in college football doesn't take a hit with an expanded playoff. When Alabama, which now that Nick is gone and retired, maybe it does not have the same luster, maybe for the first couple of years that Kalen DeBoer is there. Yeah, well, Kalen DeBoer, first year without Nick, maybe it does, but without Nick there, it's not going to have the same punch. But when Alabama comes to town and you lose to them, or if Georgia comes to town or Texas comes to town, what does it matter if you lose? Because if you're 10-2 at the end of the day, you're making the college football playoff. That's how it's going to work. It doesn't matter anymore. You know what the great thing about college football was? Let me tell you why every week was a gauntlet. Because if you lose, there's a chance that you're out. You cannot lose in the regular season and feel good about where you stand. Because you still got to go on the path of winning to get to a conference championship. You don't have that anymore. You really don't. It doesn't mean that fans aren't going to pack the stadium out. It's not that if Texas comes to Death Valley that the fans aren't going to pack out the stadium. Sure, they're going to. But at the end of the day, if you lose and you're 9-1, you could even take another loss. Hell, you could take another loss and even get into the SEC championship game. That's what was great about college football. Is that every week mattered. Now, I get maybe sometimes when group of 5 opponents came to your school that it didn't. But every time they expanded, by every team that they expand the playoff to, it loses more luster. It's why the regular season in the NFL is the way that it is. The top teams normally make the playoff. Who would have ever thunk it? Who would have ever thunk it? And you know who's going to be there every single time. The same 6 to 8, sometimes even 12 top teams in the country that continue to rotate in and out. You know, now if Penn State's in there, if LSU's in there, Oh, yeah. I mean, they have really good programs. When you go on recruiting sites and you see the top 12 recruiters, yeah, those teams are going to probably be in the playoff or be close to it. That's what's going to happen every year. This isn't like the NFL where anybody, like the Lions, could make the playoffs this year because they drafted right. No, the teams that went out in college football and recruited the best and got all of the good talent, those are the ones that will constantly be up top. It's why I said the other night, it's why North Texas, the Mean Green Machine, doesn't just come out of the ether and start beating Georgia's ass. You know, man, I tell you, it's getting, we will always cover LSU here. 7 o'clock post games, you know that we're going to cover LSU here. On my national stuff, I'll tell you, we're going to talk about it. We're going to cover it. There's a market for it, clearly. I hate where this is going. I just hate so much where this is going. Doesn't mean it's not going to be entertaining. You know, if Penn State comes to Death Valley or we have to go to Happy Valley, I'm going to love every second of it. That is a prestigious place. Very prestigious place. God forbid, what if they do a whiteout in a playoff game at night? Like, well, LSU went up to Penn. It's going to be fun. It's going to be so much fun. In the postseason, I understand that no one has said that the playoff is going to be fun, or not fun, I should say. No one said that. No one said that the expanded playoff was not going to be fun. What we were telling you is, hey, man, the more you do this, the more you're going to put egg on your face, because there's not 14 teams in college football in any given year that can win a national title. It's not going to happen. But you do you, though, for more money, and then have guys like Greg Bryan or Breen or Byrne go up to Capitol Hill with Nick Saban and say, hey, man, those kids that are out of line. Meanwhile, everyone else around them continues to expand and gets another billion in their pockets. Literally, another billion in their pockets. You're mad at the kid that's asking for $100,000 for 4 years. of a collective that you endorsed. Boy. We just keep kicking the can down the road, and every single time you kick it, money falls out, and the greedy continue to pick it up. It's going to continue to, things like this are going to continue to happen. Guys, in 2026, 2027, are we expanding to a 16-team playoff? Because teams that set at 15, 16, and they saw a really shitty group of 5 team get into the playoff when they couldn't, and there's bitching, they're going to expand it again. They're 1,000% are going to expand it again. Now, we might sit at 16. That might be the comfortable number that they're trying to get to. But the crazy part in all of this, we haven't even played a game in the 12-team playoff that they just accepted a couple of years ago. So we continue down this path in college football where I have no idea where it's going. I have people on my right telling me that the regular season doesn't get diluted by an expanded playoff. I have people on my left telling me that Blake, college football it's fine. Everything's going to be okay. Everything had to burn down for things to get better. And I just say to myself, what world are you living in? Meanwhile, we're out there champion Tennessee when Nico Iamaleava and the Spire Group go away scot-free in NIL, and an NIL violation that the NCAA is trying to investigate, and you're behind Saban. Yeah, it's just not the same way. But you don't have the same issues with an expanded playoff. And people lining their pockets, administrators lining their pockets. But we have an issue with kids doing it. So we'll continue to have these stories every night. Everything will continue to seem fine. Meanwhile, guys, it's not. It just isn't. I feel like every night the last 2 years, during an off season, I come out and say, what are we doing here? What are we doing? I'm left speechless, honestly. I'm going to cover it. I'm going to love it. College football is what I adore and worship. But the bottom line is, we're not in a great place as a sport. It's never going away, ever. Never going away. But we're going to do so much damage along the way that we won't get the pageantry we once had. It's a shame. All right. I'm going to break my one rule. Speaking of the NCAA and speaking where this could go, another thing that I'm worried about here, in some sense, now I was completely right on this Tennessee thing. I told you if you allow Tennessee to win, that more chaos was coming. Here we are. More chaos has ensued. I think the same could be said about the NCAA. See, I think people thought that Tennessee and the case against Tennessee was the backbreaker. That ain't the backbreaker. What I'm about to tell you is actually the backbreaker here. It's what happened to Gay. Now, let me preface this. We do not talk about politics on this show. I'm not even going to give you my opinion